This is In the Middle with Josh and Sarah Siders. We get it. You're probably going through something that's asking you to dig deep, think differently, and hold on against the odds.
So these are our thoughts about starting new things, shutting some things down, and being with you, right there in the middle.
Welcome back to the In the Middle podcast, the podcast for those of us who haven't arrived yet. I'm Sarah.
I'm Josh. Good to have you.
All right, 25th episode.
Yes.
Come on, we're going to celebrate all the milestones.
Here we go.
Where is that beverage? Don't leave me hanging. I've got my grandma's little coffee. It's like 4 ounces.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Coffee cup here. Homage to Papa Jack and Mama Jean.
It's awesome.
Love it. They're on the podcast with us today.
Yes. And I have my Yeti cup, homage to bearded midlife men everywhere.
Whose beverage is surprisingly hot 48 hours later.
It's true.
Amazing. So we've got an apt sponsor for you today. It is the month of May. This month feels like a blur if we're not paying attention.
It's already the second. It's blowing by.
It's already the second. And something, my phone was telling me like it was the third. It was like 1 year ago today.
Yeah.
I think it was a leap year.
Yeah.
And I was like, the third. It can't be the third.
Yeah. No.
It's a leap year. But anyway, the point is,
Yeah.
It feels wild. We need a sponsor that's going to help us manage all of our good intentions.
A sponsor that really gets us.
A sponsor that understands us.
In this moment that we're in. It's the end of year, end of the school year. It's May.
Yeah.
Summer is right around the corner.
We have great intentions.
Yes. Here's to our great intentions.
Yes.
So this episode is brought to you by the End of the Year Gilt Basket Company. Curating gift baskets for teachers thrown together in your car, featuring candles, crumpled gift cards, and your deepest apologies.
It doesn't sound like that guilt is G-I-L-T. I think that's the G-U-I-L-T form of guilt. Now, this is a backup. We recognize that. We hope that you have, a little bit of foresight.
That's right.
For all those special people. But you know what?
But if not, that's what these companies are there for.
I have like a magical like tissue, like the specialization of grabbing tissue in that one little tight spot and kind of putting it in the bag. I'm good at that.
You're good at that.
I can do
you
that.
You can run this company.
Going 80 miles an hour down the freeway. I mean, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I could.
Yeah.
I'm very good at that. So I am one of the employees.
I think a person I know this
customer.
is satirical, but a person can make some money in May. Putting some gift baskets and an assortment of gift baskets together.
I got to be honest. My friend Natalie at Gifts by Natalie is going to nail this for you.
Oh, well, there you go.
Gifts by Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie.
She's
Parents
not
Everywhere.
our sponsor. She's my friend, but she's so good at this. Like all the people in your life. We got married in May, so we have anniversaries.
That's right.
Mother's Day. You have a mother that you better, or some mothers
Yeah.
So many things to do.
So many things. Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, thank you to the Gilt Basket Company.
End of the Year Gilt Basket Company.
End of the Year Gilt Basket Company.
They're there for you.
They're there for us. We can count on them. Yeah. So today's episode is about being a late bloomer.
Yes.
And you know what, guys? We are not coming at you with that as a pejorative or derogatory term.
That's right.
This is not like, like a pity thing. Maybe you're a late bloomer. Because seriously, if somebody was to say that to me,
you can take
I would
that right
eyeball
back.
punch them. I mean, wouldn't actually, but I would look at them with the glare,
Right. So patronizing.
Oh, it is. But like that's what's weird about it is that there are certain schools of thought that kind of see it as negative. Like, oh, you didn't make it in the first round. Maybe you'll get the second. And what's interesting is that like unapologetically, you have all these people like this David Brooks article we'll be referencing, like Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote, it's like the Wild Woman and some of the other things that are very on the woo side, the mystical side. But she's talking about the late bloomer, and she's talking about it, the dangerous old woman, and this idea of like, becoming this version of yourself later in life. And they're not at all saying it in a negative way.
Right.
And so I think that maybe the core idea that we want to kind of like paint for us today is that if you were not on the 30 under 30 list or the 40 under 40 list.
Right.
Which I wasn't. A lot of my friends were. A lot of my friends in the community, you know, and it was amazing. I'm very proud of them, but I missed those. If you weren't on those and you know, those were the early bloomers and our culture celebrating those people and you're feeling like, where am I? I think this idea of the late bloomer isn't about maybe you're going to get a second chance. It's that maybe you're made of something else entirely. Maybe as we do our landscaping, as you know, plant a garden, you think about what blooms early in the season and what's late in the season, and you want a little bit of everything. And I think some of us will resonate with the qualities of that late bloomer that's meant, not oops, I missed, but I'm meant to bloom. I'm made of something qualitatively different, and I'm going to bloom later in the season.
Yeah, well said.
So, yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that so hard.
Yeah.
Because this feels like very true to me. So, anyway, you found this article. When did you find this?
It came out last summer.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
someone might have sent it to me. But, yeah, it's David Brooks in The Atlantic, I believe.
Wow.
So I'll drop the link. It might be a
Yes.
paid link, but, you know, see if you can find it somewhere. But it's really, really good.
Yeah,
so he opens up with
is.
the story
Gonna pull it up, too.
of a painter who Cezanne, just could not catch early in life, had a lot of disappointments, knew, you know, other famous creative people that had a following and had produced pieces that were great and just could never seem to figure it out, I guess you would say. And then in his late 50s started to be discovered and people bought his art and so he caught on.
Yeah.
You'd say he was a late bloomer.
He was that quintessential late bloomer that kind of displays a lot of these characteristics.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But just like the perseverance too of what he did. What's one thing that I appreciate about the article is that, you know, a lot of times people go, Grandma Moses was 77 when she started painting. And, you know, this person was Morgan Freeman was in his 50s.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's cool. I appreciate that. But like, it feels like that's all people say about it. And they just say, maybe you're going to get the thing. And to me, that's only partially helpful. So I think that knowing what makes somebody a late bloomer.
Yeah. What are the qualities?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I want to dive into that at some point here, but I feel like maybe I'm a late bloomer. I don't know about you.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
I feel like to a degree, there's certain things where I've just felt like I've moved around a lot in my career. I haven't like followed this path. When I was younger, I was like very uninterested in academia. It took me like so much, you know, emotional and mental muscle effort to stay in college. And I was like, I felt like I was floating around. Like I didn't know what I cared about, you know? And I think we like worry about people like that.
Right.
You know, when we see someone like that, we kind of go like, oh, I want my children to discover their spark. And if I see someone like that, we're like, oh, I want them to have a passion. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, totally.
It's just like an interpretation, like pressure.
Right.
I don't know if you have what that's been like
for
you.
In the article, he talks about and we've talked about this here on the podcast, the extrinsic versus intrinsic motivations.
Yes.
And it's what he says is it seems like people that, you know, follow the path that our culture lays out for us are the extrinsically motivated people that kind of check the boxes. They take one step after another and they follow the script and they have some success.
Yeah.
Though there's some backfiring because they're not as driven internally or intrinsically. It's more of like what other people say success looks like. And the late bloomers, Brooks talks about, are the intrinsically motivated that seem to float for a while, seem to, you know, march to the beat of their own drum.
Yeah.
And are trying to figure it out, but look like they're not going to make it, or look like they're just doing things the hard way. And the reality is they're trying to find that spark. they're where it looks like people with early success maybe, and we're not dogging people with early success, by the way. We are
No,
appreciative of
we
our
might be
friends
jealous
and
of you. I don't
family.
know.
Yeah, right. You make society work.
It's so true.
And so I think there's a bit of both for me
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
Like I'm Enneagram 1, so I'm a
Yes.
rule follower
Mm-hmm.
up until the rules don't make sense, then I break them.
Mm.
It's like I want to follow the rules. I want to know the plan. I want to know like what the expectations are, and I want to work within that.
Yep.
And then, but I'm also kind of like I have this streak of justice, or just kind of like a strong moral code. And if things violate that, I'm like I will break those rules to like do it the right way, or do it up to, what.
This is where we join forces.
That's right. That's right. With our powers combined, we make lots of messes for other people and for ourselves. But anyway, so yeah, I think I appreciate him going into the extrinsically motivated
Yes. Yes.
mindset to help like not pit one against each other,
Right.
but to explain. Now, what I would say is he's right to say our culture tends to value youthful success.
Yes.
Tends to value people that make it on the 30 under 30 list, and holds up the Picassos and Zuckerbergs and says that's what we should all aim for.
Wow.
That sort of
Yep.
thing. There's a huge swath of people that kind of leaves out, or people that have had some early success and then it kind of wears off.
Yeah.
Right. And so anyway, I have more thoughts on that, but I want to give you some space to like.
Yeah, no, I relate to being internally motivated. And I think what's interesting is that, and maybe it's, ADHD, but I felt at times like I was externally motivated because I would wait for something to, like a deadline to come, the surge of adrenaline, and then I could prioritize or something like that. And so I remember at different points in my life, even in my 20s, kind of going like, definitely my 30s, I want to be more internally motivated. And seeing that actually as a shift that a lot of people make going into midlife, that a lot of people, whether they've been externally motivated early or not, they begin to understand what they want to do, and they're not using the standards and milestones of, culture to determine their success or their next step.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think through our 30s, even into our early 40s, we often use those, especially if we're externally motivated. But in general, we use them to ping off of each other. We're like, how am I doing? In terms of family, career,
compare and
finance.
Contrast. Yeah.
Exactly. Like how, and so it does tend to be like external. But I think for those people that the whole time have that internal motivation, they're seeing what other people are doing. They're aware of what they could or should do.
Right.
And they just are not compelled by it. It just doesn't work for them. They're looking for something else. And I think that it just, again, as a parent, like there's something really energizing about seeing your kid discover something that they love, that they want to invest in.
Yeah.
And I can feel just how primal it is to want your, to raise an early bloomer and be and like get the reward as a parent of, oh, look,
it's like you want to know that they're going to be fine.
it's the next Tchaikovsky.
They're going to be okay.
Like,
right.
or
Or like
the next Picasso, right? Like they're going to start a Fortune 500 company in their dorm room and, whatever. And it's like, part of me, like, I love seeing people find the spark. It's a personal, like, joy for me to help people do that. And so there's that like tension of tolerating the fact that some people that we love and invest in, they might be, like I relate to, that late bloomer. And it's like, here you are, you're 60, you're 70, and you're coming into your own. And so like in some ways, the people around someone who seems to be unmotivated or unguided, I think we also have to manage the way that we communicate with those people and like not fret too much. Anyway, we'll get into, I think the characteristics are so useful.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that.
So we mentioned the intrinsically motivations.
Yes.
What else sticks out to you about like how he talks about late bloomers?
So, I mean, one of the things he lays out is the phrase early screw ups.
Yeah.
And does that mean like what they did, they screwed up early, or they were a screw up
Yeah.
early? I don't know how, what he would say. I'm sure he's not trying to be derogative, but it's like, it's funny to me because I relate to that so much. Just barely like, I had a good enough GPA, 3 point something all the way through high school through. I could have, everyone would comment on my potential. She's got so much potential, but I was like very distracted. I got detentions every semester except for one in high school. And again, a lot of these things are like characteristic for a girl with ADHD, like all the social anxiety. But I really just felt like such a drifter and such a, I didn't get arrested. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I couldn't figure myself out. And, I'm in a private school with all these people that are doing these really exciting things. And I literally didn't finish applying for colleges until the summer before I was supposed to start. I ended up at a community college because I just didn't care that much. And so, and then, changed my major 4 times. I mean, we've talked about this, but I really struggled to like find that fire. The options in front of me were not compelling.
Yeah. Right.
And I think in the past I would say, oh, I wish someone had like seen how I was or could invest in me. And I think there's part of that. But I think, again, if you are a late bloomer, this is your journey. This is the qualities that make you up. And even if someone like sees you for the precious seed that you are, they're still going to be like, well, I got to wait a while on this one.
Right. Well, it's along with that, he talks about there's like this period of wandering.
Yes.
Right? This meandering.
Yes.
You see late bloomers, they just kind of like drift a little bit. They, other people have figured it out by now and they haven't, at least like externally. And he talks about like they are looking for their spark. They're looking for but they approach life not as a specialist, but as a generalist. So in this idea of late bloomers, he even contrasts like, you're more likely to play multiple sports, that sort of thing, than be kind of like a Tiger Woods that gets so narrowly focused on one thing. So they're late bloomers tend to be more dabblers. They tend to be like, because they approach things as an experiment. Like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to experiment with that and I'm going to learn about that. And in fact, he talks about some of the Nobel laureates who they have careers that either precede them or alongside some of their scientific discoveries. They're actors and poets, and they just have all these different streams of interests that they're dipping their toes in.
Yeah.
Instead of this kind of narrowly focused, like we usually think of like an eccentric genius who just is in their lab by themselves day and night. Like people that are late bloomers tend to like really have a zest for life.
Yeah.
They tend to like just really, trying to live it to the fullest in a lot of ways.
Yes. The phrase he uses that I love to describe this is the diversive curiosity.
Yes. Yeah.
And
It's
I
so
love
good.
the word curiosity because to me it's like interest space. Like I'm pulled toward this.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's fascinating. And I think like following that curiosity is really essential for that late bloomer. There was one of the inventors that he referenced that had like 230 contacts within his field. I think it was Darwin. And he was like just across the board, across industries, fields, and disciplines. He had been like, what he called a pen pal, or essentially discussing with people, 230 or so of these people. And he was like putting together this like composite, this worldview that was informed from all of these different fields.
Yeah.
And so it was the diversive curiosity that actually helped him shape, his final theory that he's known for.
Right.
And so I think I relate to that as well. Just like the things I read about, subscribe to, invest in, they seem like, how do those help you with your daily life? And it's like, I don't know. I just want to know about them. It enriches my life to know.
Yeah.
I feel like a more interesting person because I know about them or read about them.
Right.
And I've made up that criteria on my own.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's true for you as well.
Yeah. I tend to, if something holds my interest, I tend to go really deep in it for a while.
Yeah.
I remember when you bought a new Mac when
Yes.
we were dating, and I'm like, what is that? This thing's really cool. I'm kind of not really a tech nerd, but I like stuff like that.
Yes.
And so I got one a couple years later, I think, and it was like, this is really cool. Now I'm, Mac apologist.
Oh,
Basically.
you totally are.
so
that's
it's,
been standard for you. Is like
Yeah.
all kind of dabble in something
Yeah.
as I do.
Yeah.
And then you go deep.
Yeah.
But I think that we could both say that we have diverse curiosities.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't like reading just one news source.
Yeah.
I like multiple,
Yes.
opinions on things and probably not as broad as I could be, but because there's just so much news to take in, so much information. But I appreciate diverse viewpoints that have a good case that they're making.
Yes.
I think that's really interesting.
Yes.
I read about a dozen books at a time. I just have different genres that I'm juggling and picking up and putting down and going back to, and that just tends to be the way I do things.
You're good at you've gotten better at incorporating the classics and fiction.
Yeah.
And I've really appreciated that because
Yeah.
I think when I met you, we're both very much let's learn leadership, self-help,
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Right.
And those kinds of people tend to live in nonfiction. And to be honest,
Yeah, absolutely.
I do still, but my version of that would be poetry or
Exactly. Yeah.
lovely essays by E.B. White.
Yeah. Right.
I don't do as much fiction, but yeah, I think it's entertaining and allowing for those.
Right.
Now, it's almost like I'm saying, here's how to be a late bloomer. I'm not trying to sell these qualities.
Right.
In some ways I am, because I think that we already know how to be an early bloomer, right? I
Yeah.
think it's almost like the culture is here's how you do it. And you're either doing it well or you can't
Right.
figure it out. I think the qualities of a late bloomer are under-recognized,
I think so,
under-celebrated.
yeah.
I think that
I think
everybody
that's a big
should
point.
develop these along with, even if you're an early bloomer, even if you're super successful, I love diversity of curiosity. Yes, nurture that.
Let me quote this at length here, because I think this does make that case of there are late bloomers around us.
Yeah.
We may just not be recognizing them and giving them their due. He says this: the average age of a U.S. patent applicant is 47. A 45-year-old is twice as likely to produce a scientific breakthrough as a 25-year-old. A study published in the American Economic Review found 45 to be the average age of an entrepreneur, and found furthermore that the likelihood that an entrepreneur startup will succeed increases significantly between ages 25 and 35, with the odds of success continuing to rise well into the 50s. A tech founder who is 50 is twice as likely to start a successful company as one who is 30. A study by researchers at Northwestern University, MIT, and the U.S. Census Bureau found that the fastest growing startups were founded by people whose average age was 45 when their companies was launched.
Wow.
The Information Technology and Innovation Foundation produced a study that found the peak innovation age is the late 40s.
Wow. We better get on it.
Yeah. Well, I think the big message is it's not too late. I mean, I hear Gary
Yes.
Vaynerchuk say that same thing to people.
Really?
Oh, you're in your late 20s. You think your life is over?
Oh my God.
You're 45. You have half your life left.
Yeah.
If you take care of yourself.
Yes.
So
Oh,
I think
wow.
that's the big
Wow.
that's the big thing is it's not too late for any of us. It's not too late,
Right.
and it doesn't have this doesn't have to be this patronizing oh, maybe you're just a late bloomer. Legitimately, some things are better in the second half of life.
Yes.
They're more sustainable. They're more
Yes.
comprehensive. They're more complex.
Yes.
Right. And so that's where I think I want to encourage us and anybody
Yeah.
out there watching or listening is it's not too late.
Well, it's not only that, some things, I think many things worth developing, whether it is a scientific breakthrough or
Yeah.
whether it's Cezanne and his work,
Yeah.
something like that, something creative. Those take years to develop.
They do.
So even if you those people are inherently, or at least that work is going to rely on the late bloomers to be attracted to it because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are going to continue working on it.
Right.
Whereas like you might have a 30 under 30 for like artists, like emerging artists. And some of those people have staying power, but a lot of times it's something where you're like cultivating this craft over time and you get better and you understand it more. I mean, think about like research so often needs decades
Right.
to like let things play out, especially qualitative research, or new drugs.
Peer reviewed research,
Yes,
all those things.
you need longitudinal studies and you need 20, 30 years. And so I think it's like this idea, it's not too late. It's also like for anything. I think in some ways I would ask, our listeners to go, hey, in what ways will you bloom late?
That's right.
Even if you've been an early bloomer, you don't even see yourself. Like, I think that the second half of life calls us to bloom late in certain ways. And like, what would that look like? But there are these certain traits. So there's diversive curiosity. There's early screw ups, which I love. And I'm trying to see the other, I liked the ability to self-teach.
Yeah.
I
that's a
think
good
this one is, I don't know. I think I do it, but I think if we were going to say like, who's a better self-teacher, I feel like you are.
I just like learning.
Yeah. You like, cause you go really deep on something
Yeah.
where for me, once the dopamine stops hitting, like it's kind of like if I'm going down into the earth's core of a topic, there's some point where I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
I learned enough.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know what it is, but it's a saturation point.
That makes
And
sense.
then like, how when we started dating, I was like, I do things for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm knitting for 2 weeks. I'm cooking this for 2 weeks. I'm doing whatever. And I would sort of like binge something.
Yeah.
And so I learn and I self-teach.
Right.
But then I'm like, all right, next.
Yeah. Right.
Where for you, you're like
yeah.
drilling down.
I'm like, not quite mastery, but I like having plenty of time to discover and think and analyze and
And I mean, I think that's really great. And that's one of the qualities of a late bloomer. Are you trying to sell yourself on being a late bloomer? I'm trying to sell myself. I'm like, please, I'm going to be a late bloomer.
Yeah.
That's my only hope, really.
Yeah. Well, it's right around the corner.
I was
for
like
sure.
really trying to set myself up for early bloomership. Like, it's actually hilarious how closely I missed it. Like so many of the things that happened.
Well,
in my
I think
30s.
like
Oh, so funny.
some of it is like I would say I had some ministry success in my 30s. And really it's not all it's cracked up to be. I think my surrendering of it was realizing like I'm succeeding in a system I don't really want to, right? Like the returns on it aren't really satisfying. And I think some of us go through that too, of like you abide by the extrinsic motivations and you have some success, some recognition, and then some of it is just really fickle.
Yeah.
And it can just really evaporate quickly. And so you realize like, I'm looking for something more sustainable, more deep, success that abides, success that is felt through, I don't know, legacy, what you can pass on, what you can give away to others. And so I think that's what's helped me go like, I'm going to figure this out for myself. I'm going to, I need to have integrity as far as what I feel like success is.
Yeah.
And, it's going to look different in that case then.
That's interesting. Yes.
So, but, I was talking to John this morning. We're studying the life of King David and, he's anointed, young age, teenage years, kills Goliath. He's got some private success that leads to that.
Yeah.
Has some public, like everybody's singing the song, and he goes into hiding for years.
Wow.
And then, he's on the run, being chased by a bunch of assassins. And then his hometown tribe anoints him as king when he's 30. Right? So he knows he's supposed to be king, 1/12 of the promise.
Wow.
And then it's another 7 years before the rest of the nation anoints him, receives him, accepts him. He's well over 37. Those days, that's mid-age.
I was going to say
middle age.
that's...
Yeah, because he lived to 70.
Okay.
So he's waiting 20 years plus for the full realization of what he knows he's called to. Some success along the way.
Wow.
Personal victory after personal victory. He actually got in a lot of trouble after he got the whole realization, right? Anyway, that's another sermon for another time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
The
there's
midlife coasting.
yeah, there you go. So he's got this like promise of success, minor victories, but he's got to wait. And he's got to wait, and he's got to wait till the final public victory. So I'm just relating to that and talking about patience and humility, and you know, what did he do during those years of being on the run and waiting as partial king, that sort of thing. And he didn't coast, like he kept at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. I think that's what's interesting too about like success, that it can sometimes callous us a little bit to our need for continual progress.
Yeah, right.
To continue to like curate our world, right? Our external, internal world, our relationships, to insist that we're always growing. I think that's part of like a late bloomer is aware that they haven't arrived yet, and hence the name of our podcast, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, the commitment to keep growing, because it was when he had his full kingdom and things were like relatively okay that he gets himself into, you know, relationship trouble.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like when you let your guard down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that sometimes success makes you go, oh yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
I think when we've had like little moments like that in our lives, I felt that I've done that sometimes.
Right.
You coast a little bit.
Well, and I think that's the difference. Like, I think he even talks about this a little bit. Late bloomers see the journey as the destination, not the destination itself. He didn't say it exactly like that, but like when you're so extrinsically focused on getting to a place, arriving, achieving a thing, and you go, you know, you're like, what's next?
Yeah.
Maybe I have everything I want. I have everything I thought I wanted. Whereas when you're a late bloomer, like you're on the journey of mastery. You're on the journey of like, I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I'm going to keep going along the way. And I'm going to keep learning and keep growing and keep, you know, struggling in some senses, because this is what makes me feel alive.
Yeah.
It's in the doing. It's in the on the journey, not I've arrived so I can coast now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I like that. Like the journey is that can be hard for me. Like when I think about me
too.
When I get in a car and I'm like, okay, what's the fastest way there? When I was in college and I was like, okay, here's what I want to do. I kept trying to get the fastest way there, which actually hilariously made it take longer.
It's true.
But it's like, you know, being willing to like understand that the process, like that's your life. And that once you get to the destination, you're entering a new new process, as we said it earlier.
But I will say this, he kind of ends, and so we'll kind of wrap it up here with this one thought of like, late bloomers finally commit.
Yes.
They don't just keep dabbling. They don't just keep experimenting. They finally do.
Yeah.
You know.
They're not like a lost soul.
Actually a lost soul. The Colonel finally publishes the recipe, not publishes the recipe, but fries the chicken.
Yes.
Opens his
in the
restaurant.
60s. Yes.
You know.
Yes.
That sort of thing. And so there is a moment of like, or not one moment, but it's like, okay, this is what I have to give back to the world. You know, so I think that's, you know, if I could just kind of wrap us up and segue is like, again, not too late. So if you ever thought like, man, I'd really like to give fill in the blank a shot, you know, start that business, learn to paint, write poetry.
Yes.
Just do it. You get started now. And then you never know. You never know when that you know, that corner gets turned. So
yeah, I mean, whether you have experienced early success or not, like you know, doing those things, investing in what is available for you later in life, and like you said, it's not too late. Whether you haven't had success or whether you have and you need to do, you know, do something new. So yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm curious as we wind down, what
Yes.
Are you reading, watching, listening to?
Okay, so My newest book in my Kindle library that I'm excited to dive into is The Menopause Brain, Dr. Lisa Mosconi.
Okay.
Of course, I'm talking about that, but like the neuro chemistry
Yeah.
of the brain, really, really fascinating.
Cool.
And so it's going to be fun to dig into that. What about you? What are you
I
reading, watching, or listening to?
yesterday I read a blog that like ruined my day.
Oh no!
It was actually a Substack by Amy Bird, and she quoted at length a chapter in one of James Hollis's most recent books about men, these strange creatures we call men, and how to understand them. And it wrecked me. It was,
Wow.
I don't know if it's just me, the right thing at the right time, really like deep inner work. Some questions about being a man, my experience in growing up, and kind of what I want for my life.
Wow.
So that was like,
Wow.
it was really hard, but really good. So
Wow.
it's also the answer to my next question. What's bringing you life? What's giving you life?
Yes.
I would say it's that, though I haven't fully realized that yet.
Wow.
Fully come into it. I think it's a really good soul reforming, like considerations, questions, reflections.
Yeah. That's so good.
about
What's
for you?
bringing me life is the feeling of like this climactic moment, climactic moment of the end of the school year.
Yeah.
And just kind of like really setting an intention
Yeah.
along with my Flourish community,
Good.
to be present, to like
Yeah.
identify ahead of time, like where do I really want to lend my attention,
Good.
and to be bodily present in that moment,
I like
and
that.
to plan ahead for that so that I can be there. Cause we've got some milestones with the kids this year, and it's like, you don't want to rely on your media to remember. You want to like have it imprinted on your soul.
That's right. That's
So,
good. Well said.
yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you watching, listening from wherever you're at.
Yes. And until next time.
This is the In the Middle podcast with Josh and Sarah Siders. Visit inthemiddlecoaching.co for other resources, courses, and helpful tools.